Da, da, da. Okay, sure. Let's go with pretty. I imagine the island itself should avoid any harsh edges then. There should be way more slants, and the cutoff should blend into each other nicer.
And I'm just thinking also in lighting,
What do you mean?
at least for the beginning part that we're working on, right?
Yeah.
Probably gonna want like a midday nice sun.
For the hunt, yeah. I don't know if we're gonna add a daylight cycle for hunts.
Hmm.
Could, but that wasn't what I was. It's not a priority. There we go.
Okay.
So. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Come up with a quick little concept to try to show you. More. Mm. Da-da-da-da. Button, are you there? Are you there, Button? Button? Hello, Button. Hi. I was told I was called for. Hi. Nah, it's nothing serious. Just wanted to see if you wanted to vibe. But it sounds like you are occupied, so feel no stress to have to hop in. Stressed.
I'm back.
Hey, how's it going? Alright, I did a much more simplistic, basic kind of look. It's closer to Galapagos and existing islands, and I think it's more reminiscent of tropical. It's just a lot more softer edges in terms of actually building the island. Want to take a gander at that?
Hmm. Let me see. Let me look at the previous one.
Look at the previous ones, they have more of a... The two near the bottom, those have more of a cage-like appearance with kind of like sections that go up. And then the top right three, those have more of a conch sort of shape
Mm-hmm.
that weave between kind of like a little bit dangerous but also not. So there's like a lot more harsher edges. And geometry that doesn't make sense is like actual islands.
Hmm. I think the latest one that you've done looks like it could support forests the best.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones feel like they'd be a lot of rock.
Yes. However,
Mm-hmm.
it's more so rock on the bottom. If you
Okay.
remember from the example I had drawn, say, like before the variations,
Mm-hmm.
I'm covering the top with just a shit ton of grass and fauna.
Yeah.
So it'd almost be like tiered or like steps of island
Okay.
as they go up.
As it goes
The
up, you
first
get
two,
more trees, I guess? Is the idea?
yeah, either
Okay.
more trees, different forests. It opens up potential for different biomes.
Mm-hmm.
and at the top, I had envisioned more of like an either ice or fire. Like maybe it's an active volcano or something.
Hmm. I like the tiered idea.
Hmm.
Like from an environment design, that seems fun. And like a gameplay leveling aspect wise, I think that's kind of fresh.
Do you think it's too much?
No, I actually like it. I feel like it could
Good.
look unique compared to like your typical. It's like very, in a way, it's like this sectioning is very cleanly sectioned that I
Mm.
don't feel like I usually see. So I think that would be fun to explore. So to
So
work in like
for
those levels.
so you do like the tiers. You want like
Yes.
maybe some sectioning of land where it's kind of like you can see a clear distinction between different levels of the island.
Yeah, and I think that'll also pair well with at least like the vague sense of whatever style we were thinking of.
So for the latest island, I
Hmm.
went. I kind of tried to go with pretty, but so what I did in this sense is I eliminated a lot of these harsher edges. You see how
Hmm.
it's like an acute angle that's hanging over nothing?
Hmm.
That gives a lot more danger, it gives a lot more. It does give interest, but it's like pretty isn't its focus.
I
This one
think
is more
when I say
rounded.
pretty, I'm thinking on like a more macro scale, less so like uh less so a whole thing. Because
Macro.
a lot of the other designs, even your first one, can be pretty. Just depends on how you treat it, right? Quote unquote picturesque, whatever. Because I feel like the general notion that I was thinking of when I said that is like, well, what's your typical beautiful resort island gonna look like? Clear water, sunny blue sky, beaches, very nice plants. Galapagos
Yeah, and I
Island's got a
was.
lot of birds, color,
Yes,
that
I
kind of pretty.
I did say I was asking for island shape design
Well,
though.
you specifically asked just in general about the design. This you gave me one word.
I said if you were going to distill the island into one word, what would you choose?
Pretty.
Okay.
Or maybe my sense of pretty includes the stuff you've been doing before that.
Um.
Well, what do you think? Do you have any inputs on what you want?
Well, I did offer the inputs as the ideas that I was playing with being cage or facade,
Okay.
where a lot of the island may appear a certain way, but then as you continue on into development or design of the island, maybe it's not as pretty as it seems, or maybe it's not as decorative as it may seem.
Okay.
So for that, that's why some of the first few ones, as well as the last few ones, have more of a layered design to it. You see, it's kind of like shelled, kind of layered as you go deeper, there's layers to it.
Okay.
And then the bottom two ones before this one is encompassing more ideas of the cage setting. So you'll see it's almost like a dome covering the island. And again, with the layers rather than just being layers like the conch shell, it actually converges over on
Mhm.
top of the island, which makes it covers up the sun. So that's the cage concept that I was playing with the last two there.
Hmm.
Oh. I don't disagree with we needing it to make it pretty, because we did establish those early on. We want nice colors, and the things that you were describing are good topics to hit on for the village designs. It makes sense in context. We want the beginning village. We already said we wanted it to be a port, right? We're entering
Mhm.
on a ship or something. It's gonna be tropical, like you
Yeah.
said, and there will be like forest themed villages as we move on to like different sections of the island, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like you said anything wrong. Those are exactly what we're gonna do for all the village designs going further
I
in.
think what we're looking at is like how we're gonna do like a village, or not the village, the island shape in general.
Yes. So the reason I also gave like examples of, I keep going back to this, but caged facade and like
Mhm.
maybe flow even.
Yeah.
What I have in mind is like maybe you have a lot of sloping mountains that kind of blend into each other, almost making it look like a weird art piece.
Mhm.
And then maybe we can stylize the island mountains and hills like this. Like maybe it's a very hilly kind of environment, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I was thinking flow would play into.
Mhm.
Um, we can go with like, if we go with dangerous, right? Maybe overall the whole island will have way more spikes. Like just think of, have you
Mm,
played Wind Waker?
no.
So there's a forest section there's one of the islands that's just a forest, but it's a shit ton of roots and it's got a shit ton of thorns just sticking out of it. We could do something like that. So as like on a danger level and
Mhm.
shape design, it already looks more crazy, more full, dangerous, whatever you want to call it.
Here's what I'm thinking, right? If we're going to
Hmm.
segregate and doing this step level
Yeah.
anyways, right? I feel like we could
Hmm.
probably use that as an opportunity to like distinctly have different shape language, a gradation.
Okay. So
So
we have
when at the
different
bottom
tiers.
levels, right, the tiers, yeah, at the bottom, right, where you first
Yeah.
start, things are probably going to have more nicer flow. They're more like gentle and whatnot. And as you
Okay.
go progressively upwards, things
So like
can
a
probably
mix
get
of shapes,
sharper.
a mix of shape language
Yeah,
based on the tiers.
yeah.
Okay.
So like a
That
transition could
that does
work.
lend it to be overall a pyramid or triangle shape, I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, the kind of fortune cookie looking one might work if we tier it up,
Mm-hmm.
or the Galapagos one as a general shape where it's kind of like a slope down triangle,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just make each section a tier. More like an Egyptian pyramid than a mountainous continuous thing.
Mm-hmm. And we could, if we're going that way, right? Like a,
Let me. I'm gonna draw out an
hmm.
idea, but you keep on continue your thought.
like a curve and like the degree the shapes get more and more sharp, I think. So at first where
Yeah.
civilization is at, right, is probably like on ground level, right?
Hmm.
This is probably the safest, right? So things here would be more flowy, more round, right? So for example, maybe right at like, okay, the first like mini boss, right? If we're doing tiers, then we could have things start getting angular, like, and we could separate, have like a sharper separation, maybe? I don't know. Of like when things are getting more aggressive. If
I
that
think I
works.
understand. Let me.
Not. And before the sharp transition, we could start introducing like then okay, if we're talking about as a whole, right? The island at a flatter level. Okay, if we're just going with, let's just say, hmm, I'm going to assume that from afar, like as like for example the ship, because you mentioned you wanted to play with like the facade kind of things not seeming what they could be, right?
Just as
Theme.
an example, it's not necessarily we have to take that as, you know.
Well, no, I think we can play with that. Like, for example, we're probably going to have an intro scene to some degree of the ship sailing in, right?
Yes.
To introduce you to the island. Obviously, you're not going to see the monsters prancing around. I feel like if we can get the overall shape, right, as we're talking about that, looking relatively tame and chill before you actually land on the island. Like the overall shape, I guess, to be maybe softer until you're on the island and you're like at a macro scale and you're like transitioning through the different like tiers, I guess. Then you're seeing like more of the structures, right? Like the rocks, like the trees and the flora. Maybe that being where you see the bigger contrast in shape. So the big shape, maybe it would do us good to keep it relatively as a whole softer. I don't know, less
The
assuming,
whole shape.
like your latest sketch. But like if we're gonna play with like the cage, right, we can still probably move in those like big structures to cast shadows onto like different parts of the island, right? I think like the shapes of that too, like because obviously we're gonna want to have like a somewhat unique looking island.
Yeah.
So that way we want this to look cool and interesting. Like, hey, this is a cool place to be, right? Yeah, like that. I think we could do
You want
something
something
with.
like that, right? Like a mix of the smooth, and then as you tier up, it gets more kind of crazy.
I think that could work, and I'm thinking if we could work in your shapes from like your variations in some kind of way.
Okay, more curves, more swoops, maybe.
I think that would be good. Cause like your shapes where like you have some things that like, oh, curve over to like cover like your layers of structures that like surround the island or create valleys, I think that's like good. I think we want that.
Okay. We could also take this another route,
Mm-hmm.
just as an exploration path. We could make it a very simple, basic island, like the Galapagos one, where it's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of hilly mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and then take from Maiden Abyss, where on the outside it's just a hilly island, but straight inside is like a cavern that just goes deeper and deeper into the ground.
Okay.
And then like maybe the cove or the starting village is the entrance, like the top layer where it's still
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then if we follow Main Abyss idea or like similar, kind of like go in that realm, as you go deeper into the cavern, it gets more crazy. That might be a little too much Maiden Abyss, but we could kind of go in that direction.
Or maybe we could design in rings, right? So if we do the outside of the island, right? I'm just going to do an aerial view, right? Everything's soft, maybe?
Mhm.
Soft and nice. And as you venture deeper to the center of the island, and either up or down in elevation, you
Yeah.
could have, you could start having different shapes, or we could even make it a group, or maybe like a, okay, let's just say maybe the island shape, if you're beginning, let's just say beginning here, the entryway, maybe there's some water that goes in, and I should go in, never mind, I don't know if that's going to work.
I think the ring has potential because instead of making it a cavern that goes, or not a cavern, like a pit that goes down, you can have it more like a funnel. And as you
Mm-hmm.
get closer to the center, right, maybe it's more dense or crazy.
So let's just say this is center as you go closer that way.
Or take from, oh, what was that island that Usopp got stuck on?
You'd have to ask Button.
You know what island I'm talking about, though, right? For his
His
character
training,
arc.
right? Where there's like a bunch of the weird crazy plants and whatnot, I think it was.
Yeah, we can make the island alive. That is also an option.